Today we're going to make a couple of changes to the Wendy cuffs so that they're more comfortable and they look more refined. First of all, the filament ended up being fairly uncomfortable, so I want to do a flexible filament. And I already did do a test print of the original file, which the flexible filament worked great. This is Cheetah. However, there's still some issues with the file itself because the Voronoi pattern was cut off too much at the back, so it ended up being just a single layer for some of those parts. Also, the straps are just a little bit chunky and unrefined looking, so I want to try a different version for that. First of all, let's get the mesh fixed. I'm going to start over in Mesh Mixer with revising the mesh so that it's a little bit more even this time and the openings are a little bit larger towards the top, and then get smaller as they move down. Also, I want to make sure that it is not too sliced off at the bottom this time so that every part can have enough roundness to it to have multiple layers and not just a single layer. It's going to look a lot more neat that way, a lot more finished. Once the mesh is set up, then we can do just the same thing, slice it in half and mirror that piece so that it is symmetrical down the center. And then there's a couple parts that stick out funny, so we want to just mush those down and then move the file over into the 3D design software to combine it with the border and the strap. And I did scale that down to be a little bit flatter, but not so flat that it ends up with a single layer. So I want to make sure that it keeps its thickness this time. And then just scale the rest of the part to cover the edges, just barely. And then I did round off the tips this time too, just to make it end within the Voronoi pattern instead of sticking out past is what it was trying to do at first. Now that we've got it in Cura, you can see that already this is going to be a better print. There's more of it on the print bed, and I only had to slice off 0.3 millimeters of the bottom in order to get a significant amount of it on the print bed with the first layer. So it's going to be a lot cleaner print this time and also look better as the finished product. The second layer, I guess, of the Voronoi pattern does start a little bit off the print bed, but it's not too far off, and I think it's going to bridge just fine. So we're going to be doing this in Cheetah. I think it's going to be a lot more comfortable. It's also cleaner to print than the PETG I've noticed. The first layer goes down nice and clean, and most of it's there on the print bed, so it's a lot neater already. And then as it progresses, it continues to stay a clean print. It sticks fine to print bite. Cheetah doesn't even need any heat. And then with that second layer, it is bridging just fine. So it's filling in all the gaps as it goes. And then we just gotta peel it up off the print bed once it's done. It's not too hard to remove. And it is nice and flexible now. I think this is going to be a lot more comfortable. There is a little bit of stringing and some blobs to clean up here, but nothing too bad. So I'm just gonna grab a craft knife and some scissors to clean up most of the bits. Can just trim out anything that's not supposed to be there. You can see there's nothing that's part of the pattern that's a single layer like the last one, so it's really easy to tell what's just a piece that needs to be trimmed off and what's part of the design. Once all the big pieces are off, we can take a low temp wood burner and just melt away any of the really fine spidery bits. It cleans it up nicely, and if you have any rough edges there, you can just melt them down. Just make sure it's not too hot so you don't burn anything. And you will need to clean off the tip periodically as material builds up on there so you don't end up making the problem worse. With the inner edge, I am going to take one further step here and sand that part down with the Dremel. When you sand Cheetah, it turns nice and soft. It's really comfortable, so it's going to be a very smooth surface to have on the part that's going to be against the skin. Now we just need to join the sides together using the holes that were printed into the design. Instead of sewing on straps, this time I'm just using a piece of ribbon, and it's delicate and it blends in better. I think it's more appropriate for the costume. It's simple to do, and you can change this out for any color that you might like. You just trim it off and melt the end so it doesn't fray, and it's ready to go. And it's fully adjustable here, just loosen it or tighten it depending on how you want it to fit. And because it is so smooth, you can just slide it onto your arm. So you can either tie it afterwards or just tie it beforehand and slip it on. It works great that way. I think for putting on the ankle ones, though, you are going to have it loose, but then you can tie it yourself just fine. This version is much more comfortable. It looks more finished and refined. I will have this revised version posted at lindydesignlab.com if you want to do your own Wendy costume. You can also contact me if you need a different size or if you wanted a custom design. You can follow the card above or link below. Another benefit of using the flexible filament for this part of the costume is that when you're moving through crowds at the con, sometimes the rigid ones would kind of catch on things or scrape people. So with these flexible ones, they just mush in if you bump against something, and they don't damage the costume or anybody else. Comparing this new version to the first cuffs, you can see it's a lot more refined and neat looking. It's more comfortable, and also the straps blend in a lot better with the costume. If you're enjoying the costume and prop making videos, let me know by hitting that like button. You can also comment below if there is something particular that you would like to see, or contact me directly at lindydesignlab.com if you want something made for you. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. There's some carnage in here. Piggies, are you just destroying all those veggies? They were getting really bored and started squeaking and squeaking and squeaking, so I got them their night veggies. They're very accustomed to their schedule, but it seems to be getting a little bit earlier every day that they want their dinner. What you doing, buddy? So I just put some cardboard to keep them safe, and they can go up and down just fine now. It was a little bit too steep because I had to make the cage a little bit taller with the bins. So pretty soon I'll decide what I want to do, get the right supplies, and make something a little bit nicer. Hi, Mr. Baggins. Welcome, tasty celery ranger.